At the start of Jodi and Travis's relationship, their love appeared to be something out of a fairy tale. Travis believed he had found the love of his life, but instead, he crossed paths with the person who would end it. Travis-Alexander was discovered in his shower, brutally murdered with 27 stab wounds and a gunshot to the head. His girlfriend, Jodi Arias, was ultimately found guilty of his murder. This is the story of a relationship full of sex, betrayal, and murder. Travis-Alexander was born on July 28, 1977, in Riverside, California, to Gray David Alexander and Pamela Elizabeth Morgan Alexander. He and his 6 siblings grew up in a household plagued by their parents' drug addiction and endured physical abuse from their mother. Despite these hardships, Travis built a stable life for himself once he reached adulthood. He converted to Mormonism and found himself a job as a salesman with prepaid legal services. Jodi Arias was born on July 8, 1980 in Salinas, California. She claimed to have an abusive childhood as well, but her mother insisted otherwise. Her mother did, however, admit that Jodi had long-standing mental health struggles and frequent emotional outbursts. Jodi's tendency towards secrecy began at the early age of 14 after she was caught growing marijuana by her parents. She eventually dropped out of high school and faced financial difficulties, working as a waitress while dreaming of becoming a successful photographer. In 2006, while at a company convention in Las Vegas, the two crossed paths and it was love at first sight. The pair stayed up until 4 a.m., talking and connecting. By the next morning, Travis excitedly told his friends that he had found his future wife. Despite Jodi living in Palm Desert, California, and Travis living in Mesa, Arizona, their relationship continued to blossom. Just a few months into their relationship, Jodi converted to Mormonism, aligning herself with Travis's faith. The couple began engaging in premarital sex, a violation of the strict teachings of the Mormon Church. Travis began feeling guilty over their actions, and his internal conflicts often spilled over into their interactions. At times, he lashed out at Jodi through harsh texts and emails, calling her degrading names as a way of expressing his shame and guilt. Many of Travis' friends started noticing red flags in Jodi's behavior, suspecting she had developed an unhealthy obsession with him. Her actions grew increasingly invasive. She eavesdropped on his conversations, snooped through his emails and social media accounts, would forward private emails between Travis and other women to herself, and would follow Travis to the bathroom and wait outside the door until he came out. Although Travis insisted Jodi was a good person, he ultimately decided to end their relationship after just 5 months. His feelings of guilt over their premarital sexual relationship became too much for him, prompting the breakup. Even after their breakup, they continued seeing each other, further fueling Jodi's growing obsession. She would often show up to Travis's house uninvited, but despite his anger at her unannounced visits, their encounters frequently ended in intimacy. As Travis began dating other women, Jodi's behavior escalated. She slashed his tires, hacked into his Facebook account, would harass the women he went out with, and snuck into his home on multiple occasions. The toxicity between them only grew, and during May of 2008, texts and emails reveal that the two had a major argument. As a joke, or perhaps out of fear, Travis told one of his friends, "Don't be surprised if you find me dead one day." Those words became prophetic. And not long after, that's exactly what Travis's friends discovered. On June 9th, 2008, Travis's friends started getting worried. They hadn't heard from him in 5 days, which was odd as they were planning activities for an upcoming trip to Cancun. A couple of his friends decided to visit his house to check on him, and that's when they saw Travis's mangled, bloodied body lying in the shower. The 30-year-old had been shot in the head, stabbed 27 times, and his throat slashed. The scene was both grisly and perplexing. Investigators discovered long brown hairs, a digital camera in the washing machine, and a bloody handprint on the wall. As police began investigating his murder, his friends encouraged them to take a closer look at Jodi. Initially, Jodi denied being at Travis's house, claiming she hadn't seen him in 2 months. She also stated that she was driving to Utah to meet another man she was dating at the time of his murder. However, investigators recovered photos from the water damage camera that told an entirely different story. Investigators discovered time-stamped photos from June 4th that placed both Travis and Jodi together. Some of the images showed them in bed, while a photo taken at 5:29 p.m. captured Travis in the shower. Disturbingly, the next series of photos showed Travis bleeding on the floor. Jodi admitted she had been with Travis that night, but insisted she wasn't responsible for his death. When confronted with the shower photos, she finally confessed to driving to Travis's house on June 4th. Jodi claimed that she and Travis had been intimate that evening, and she had begun taking photos of him in the shower. But according to her, the night took a turn when two masked intruders broke into the house and killed Travis. She alleged they threatened to kill her family if she ever spoke about what had happened. Investigators, however, weren't convinced by her story, and she was ultimately charged with first-degree murder. At trial, the prosecution presented even more evidence linking Jodi to Travis's murder. They revealed that a bloody handprint on the wall contained both Jodi's and Travis's DNA. Additionally, they pointed out that Travis had been killed with a .25 caliber gun, the same type of firearm that had recently gone missing from Jodi's grandparents' home. The prosecutors argued that jealousy was the motive. Travis had initially invited Jodi to join him on the trip to Cancun, but later withdrew the offer. When Jodi discovered he had invited another woman instead, she flew into a jealous rage and murdered him. However, Jodi and her defense team presented a completely different narrative. They claimed Jodi killed Travis in self-defense. According to her, he became furious after she accidentally dropped his camera, and she was forced to kill him to protect herself. The defense also portrayed Travis as a sex addict who had physically, verbally, and emotionally abused her. The trial, mixed with sex, betrayal, and murder, lasted 4 months, and in the end, the jury sided with the prosecution, finding Jodi guilty of first-degree murder. She is currently serving out her life sentence at Arizona State Prison Complex, where her controversies continued. Jodi filed an appeal of her conviction, citing misconduct by prosecutor Juan Martinez, but her appeal was rejected in 2020. She later sued her former defense attorney L. Kirk Nurmi after he published a book about the case. Meanwhile, reports from inmates claimed that Jodi used her sexuality to manipulate both other inmates and prison guards. Even behind bars, Jodi has managed to sell her artwork online, with some pieces valued as high as $2,500. Since the paintings are not directly related to Travis's murder, they don't violate any laws preventing criminals from profiting off their crimes. Many people are outraged that Jodi continues to profit from her notoriety, and how she has maintained a presence on social media. Still, she remains a divisive figure, and not everyone despises her. Despite the gruesome nature of her crimes, Jodi has garnered countless male admirers from behind bars, receiving marriage proposals on a weekly basis. During her time in prison, Jodi formed friendships with 2 inmates, Donovan Baring and Tracy Brown. After Donovan was released, she helped manage Jodi's Twitter account, maintaining her presence online. However, things began to change when Donovan started communicating with Jodi's mother. Donovan began to notice inconsistencies in Jodi's stories, particularly about her relationships and claims of mistreatment by her parents. Over time, she came to see through Jodi's lies, realizing that Jodi only cared about herself. In the mix of lies, one thing became undeniable. Crossing paths with Jodi always came at a price.